The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the small town of Maplewood. It had been years since Sarah and Jake had seen each other. Life had taken them on different paths, but today was special. Today they would reunite. Sarah stood at the edge of the park, her heart racing. Memories flooded her mind. They had spent countless afternoons here, laughing, playing, and dreaming. The swings creaked softly in the breeze, a reminder of their carefree childhood. She glanced at her watch. Jake was late. Just then, she spotted a familiar figure in the distance. He was walking toward her, a little older, a little taller, but unmistakably Jake. Her heart leaped. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Jake!" she called out, her voice breaking the stillness of the park. He looked up, his face lighting up with recognition. "Sarah!" he shouted back, breaking into a run. They met in the middle, and for a moment time stood still. They embraced tightly, as if trying to make up for all the lost years. "Wow, it's been too long," Jake said, pulling back to look at her. His eyes sparkled with joy. "Too long indeed," Sarah replied, her smile wide. "You haven't changed a bit." "Neither have you," he laughed, brushing a hand through his hair. "So what's new?" They settled onto a nearby bench, the familiar sounds of the park surrounding them. Children played, dogs barked, and the wind rustled through the trees. It felt like old times, yet everything was different. "I moved to the city for work," Sarah began, her voice tinged with excitement. "I'm a graphic designer now. It's hectic, but I love it." "Wow, that's amazing. I always knew you'd do something creative," Jake replied, genuinely impressed. "I'm still in Maplewood, working at my dad's auto shop. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills." Sarah nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "Sometimes it's not about the glitz. It's about being happy, right?" "Well, exactly," Jake said, his expression turning serious. "But I miss the adventures we used to have. Remember that summer we tried to build a treehouse?" Sarah burst out laughing. "How could I forget? We ended up with a pile of wood and a lot of splinters." "And a very angry neighbor," Jake added, chuckling. "I think we scared him half to death." They reminisced about their childhood, each story sparking laughter and nostalgia. The bond they shared felt as strong as ever. But as the sun dipped lower, a shadow of uncertainty crept in. "Do you ever think about what could have been?" Sarah asked, her voice softer now. Jake looked thoughtful. "Sometimes. But I believe everything happens for a reason. We had to grow, to find our own paths." "True," Sarah agreed. But a part of her longed for the simplicity of their youth. "I just wish we hadn't lost touch." "Let's not let that happen again," Jake said firmly. "We can make new memories." "Starting now," Sarah's heart swelled. "I'd love that." They spent the rest of the afternoon catching up, sharing dreams and fears. They talked about their families, their struggles, and their hopes for the future. The connection between them deepened, and the years melted away. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Jake suggested they take a walk. They strolled through the park, side by side, the air filled with laughter and the scent of blooming flowers. "Do you remember the time we got lost in the woods?" Jake asked, a mischievous glint in his eye. "How could I forget? We thought we were going to be eaten by bears," Sarah replied, giggling. "Or worse, have to spend the night out there," Jake added, shaking his head. "We were such scaredy cats." "Yeah, but we made it back together," Sarah said, her tone turning serious. "That's what matters." They paused by the old oak tree, the one they had carved their initials into years ago. It stood tall and proud, just like their friendship. Jake reached out and traced the letters with his finger. "Look at this," he said, a smile spreading across his face. "We were so young and naive." "Naive, but full of dreams," Sarah replied, her eyes sparkling. "We still are, you know." "Absolutely," Jake said, his voice filled with conviction. "And we can still chase those dreams together." As darkness fell, they found themselves sitting on the grass, the stars twinkling above them. The world felt vast and full of possibilities. They shared their aspirations, their fears, and their plans for the future. "I want to travel," Sarah said, her eyes shining. "See the world, experience new cultures." "Count me in," Jake replied without hesitation. "I've always wanted to go on a road trip across the country." "Let's do it," Sarah exclaimed in excitement. "We can plan it out, make it happen." "Deal," Jake said, grinning. "But first we need to make sure we don't lose touch again." "Agreed," Sarah said, her heart full. Let's meet up regularly. No more waiting years. They exchanged numbers, promising to text and call. The night air was filled with a sense of renewal. They had found each other again, and this time they wouldn't let go. As they stood to leave, Jake turned to Sarah. "I'm really glad we did this. It feels like coming home." "Me too," Sarah replied, her voice thick with emotion. "You'll always be with me, no matter the distance." With one last hug, they parted ways, each carrying a piece of the other in their hearts. The reunion had rekindled a flame that had never truly extinguished. They were ready to face the future, together. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Sarah and Jake kept their promise. They texted, called, and met up whenever they could. Each encounter was filled with laughter and adventure. They explored new places, tried new foods, and shared their lives in ways they hadn't before. One sunny afternoon, they found themselves at a local cafe, sipping coffee and planning their road trip. The excitement was unmistakable. "Okay, so where to first?" Jake asked, pulling out a map. "Let's start with the coast," Sarah suggested, her eyes sparkling. "I want to see the ocean again." "Sounds perfect," Jake agreed, marking it on the map. "And then we can head to the mountains." They spent hours planning, their laughter echoing through the cafe. It felt like old times, yet even better. They were no longer just kids dreaming of adventures. They were adults ready to make those dreams a reality. As the day came to an end, they walked outside, the sun setting behind them. The sky was painted in hues of orange and purple, a beautiful backdrop for their renewed friendship. "Thank you for being in my life again," Sarah said, her voice sincere. "I didn't realize how much I missed you." "Same here," Jake replied, his expression warm. "You've always been my anchor." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Then, with a shared smile, they knew they were ready for whatever came next. Their journey was just beginning. Together they would face the world, hand in hand, heart to heart. The bond they had rekindled was unbreakable, and the adventures ahead promised to be unforgettable.